Hi, I'm Mark Cleghorn. Welcome to the Photographer Academy, and today we're talking about headshots in a short kind of mini series to help you kind of maximize these kind of perfect weekday shoots for any pro photographer. Headshot photography is used in so many ways across the land, across the world, especially with the internet now and basically the likes of social media demanding so much kind of imagery, especially from the professional community of whatever level you are. But you know, whether you're photographing for a big organization like a council or a big industrial kind of warehouse for their staff shots, or as a specialist headshot photographer coming into your studio, it is a business there, and obviously there's many things to actually really look at and how much you're basically going to be able to earn from the headshot photography. So let's get right into kind of how much to charge and what to actually do to begin with. So as far as the costs are concerned, if you're a traveling headshot photographer, it means that some of your setup costs, some of your kind of getting to the location is going to either be swallowed up into your professional fee. So in other words, the more you basically do, you're kind of being able to charge more. However, in the early days, probably when you're building that little bit of an extra to your business, a lot of that kind of travel time is going to be uncharged for travel time unless it's a very long way. I would suggest to you that your entry level into any form of headshot photography where you're working on location would be somewhere above £100 per hour to ensure that basically it's not being wasted time and so on. If you're working for a council or a big organization, you're probably going to find that there's lots of people to be photographed. So in the commercial world, you're pretty much going to be working on an hourly rate. And I would say as a bare minimum, the £100, the $100 would be an absolutely basic beginning of where you should be. If you are photographing for a bigger organization where you're there for 3, 4, 5 hours, then obviously negotiate a sliding scale perhaps on the hourly rate. But basically the sliding scale can only really exist if we've got a decent kind of per hour price to begin with. If your pricing is cheap as chips, like £35 an hour, £50 an hour, you've got no kind of margin there to actually work with at all. So you've pretty much got to actually keep it as that kind of per hour is your basic. What I would also encourage you to do is ensure that you're just not including images as a default. In headshot photography, even though you might be agreeing when you kind of do a quote, X amount of images are included within it, make sure that is written down and make sure the client fully understands exactly what they're going to get for their money. But then I would look somewhere around £20 to £25 per extra image, whether it's retouched or not, depends on your terms and conditions with it. So if I'm going into a solicitor's, let's say, or a call center, and I'm doing a load of photographs for them, probably the solicitor's kind of expectations for web use, social media, and obviously it might even go into a printed brochure, will have a slightly different kind of dynamic pricing than compared to going into the likes of a trade warehouse where they're just looking for their employee of the month or whatever it be. So for me, if I was going into the solicitors and pretty much know I'm going to be there for 2 to 3 hours, I would be kind of going in around about £200 per hour as a minimum, plus £25 per image on top. So that means that there's none included in the price because I've told the client in advance. However, if that's a part of your negotiation to get the job, that's really down to you. Greed and need are the two things that I talk so much about in my business building for photographers. When you kind of need it, you basically try and price it accordingly so you get more work through. Then as your kind of experience and your business grows, the greed angle can come in more and more, where you can basically add more to your pricing, or you can include less, as it were. So as far as the kind of the big organization is concerned, you're probably going to be more like a schools type of photographer, event photographer, where basically people are rattling through your hourly rate, as it were. So you might only be at a big warehouse photographing 50 people, and you might be there for 2 hours doing that. That is where basically you need to ensure that you're charging extra for your images, even if it's a lower amount, because that is really your kind of cream on your coffee as such, really. So that kind of explores the kind of the corporate world. If I was shooting for actors, singers and dancers and I was working on location, I would try and encourage you to kind of put some packages together instead. Packages is not a bad word. It basically can at times devalue the profit level if you've kind of included too much within the package, and we'll look at some now in a minute. But basically what you're looking to do is offer a really good service at a realistic price, so they get good value for money and you get the profit per job that you're planning to do. When you're shooting on location, you're probably going to be shooting on location for a good hour to 2 hours again, so an inclusive. And I would say if you're going to travel, we're better to actually charge for a 2-hour shoot than promote a 1-hour shoot, unless it's kind of a revisiting or the client is basically back for another session within 12 months or 18 months of their first shoot. I would always plan for you to kind of try and charge for that 2-hourly rate, because then you can shoot a lot more, you can get a lot more variety, and you can excite the client with a lot more images. And obviously the more we excite them, their kind of publicists then, or management, will be hopefully buying more images from us in the long term. So price it for a 2-hour shoot rather than a quickie 1 hour, unless you want to be doing that. Never be afraid to offer group shoots, so multiple actors, singers and dancers across 2 or 3 hours. That's where you can really kind of maximize your per hour rate. But by focusing on the one client, you tend to be a little bit more of a specialist. You can give them one-to-one attention, one-to-one images, so you can kind of maximize your return and things really. So in that case, I would still recommend that you're working on the likes of the hourly rate plus say £20–25 per image finished. In the hourly rate, I'd probably encourage you to say kind of including 1 or 2 kind of retouched images within those 2 hours. That's really down to you, though much more than that, we're basically not going to be able to upsell. And as long as their management or their kind of promoters are basically handling them as well, they'll know that they're going to need a lot more variety in time. And that's the beauty of online galleries, where they can kind of go there and actually purchase other images later after the shoot and things really. When you're a headshot photographer in studio though, and you've basically got a full-time studio premises, these are perfect for us in weekday mornings, afternoon, the evening shoots to add into the turnover and good profit within the business as well and things. The same thing applies though. I would go for a quickie session, a half-hour one. I would go for a 1 hour, I would go for a 2 hour, and something then like a 3 or a 4 hour shoot kind of variety, each of them with a slightly different kind of cost. So I would say for the quickie shoot, somewhere between £75 and £100 is acceptable in the business world for a great headshot. And that basically person then knows they're going to be able to go away with that image pretty much on that day, as long as they're obviously paying, or that they'll be able to proof that day as well with it online. When you start to actually charge for the 2 hours and the 3 hours and so on, there's obviously going to be multiple changes of clothes. There's going to be possibly multiple different looks with hairstyle, styling, glasses on, glasses off. And even though headshot photography is all about what they've got on their top here, it tends to kind of gradiate down to the actual trousers and everything else with it as well and things. So again, it does take a little bit more time than slipping on a t-shirt on and off and things. There's also times where we're going to have to do body shots, and that's going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more light, dynamic, and obviously depends on the type of photography that the client wants. So that's why a simple business shot can be something like a £75 or £100 including an image, whereas an actor, singer and dancer is probably going to be more like £150 to £200 for the kind of the session that they need with or without inclusive images. I've basically got up on screen here some ideas for you. Now don't get too frightened off. I haven't put the kind of the quickie session in. I've only basically put in kind of 4 different elements for you. And these are the kind of things that I recommend to my experienced photography group as well, a kind of a starting point. So if we just look at the starter package for a minute, it's up to 100 photographs, no image review, 1 retouched, extra retouched images are £25 each, an online store where they can actually go ahead and actually buy more images at a later date. Basically either a light background or a dark background, and then basically a maximum of 2 changes of top and basically only colour as well. Okay, so if we come back to me for a minute, what does that actually mean? Well, when you kind of go up to 100 pictures, I've got no problem in sticking 100 images up online for the client to review with a copyright wash on them and things really. It means that when I'm doing the shots, pretty much everything is standard. There's slightly different expressions and so on. Why I use the words up to instead of inclusive, because up to 100 images, we might not need to get them. We might not have the time to do it based on them arriving late or whatever it would be. But basically up to 100 images will allow us to actually shoot. We're not going to do any edit. We're going to do a quick fix across all images. Then we're going to upload them up onto a gallery. And then basically that person can actually select their one inclusive image for me to retouch, but they also know then that if they want 3, 4, 5 of them and things really, then the extras are going to be on top and things. So on the day or in advance of the day, they're paying the 175 quid. They know what they're in for there. Any additional images can be done over the phone, or if you have the ability to be able to take the payment online, obviously that makes it a lot easier. We still need to be able to actually deliver though the actual images to the client. And the way I'd suggest you doing that is use the likes of a registered file transfer like WeTransfer, because basically they'll have to actually agree to the terms and conditions before they WeTransfer them. You get notification when they've downloaded the images, and if you keep that, that's a part of your copyright flow, and if should you have any problems financially with that client, then basically you've got something to back yourself up with. Then if we just kind of jump onto the Pro package, this is where kind of it's designed for the actor, singer, the dancer, in other words, the artist as it were, or somebody who needs that little bit more from their kind of session to actually really maximize their social media presence, perhaps using more and more on their website. Perhaps they're a speaker and they're going around quite a lot and they need different images to explain different things. They might be a professional trainer of sorts and they need different images or expressions or hand gestures to be able to actually kind of show themselves off with and things really. So we can see here now, because we're increasing the dark and the light backgrounds, and on here you can see on the screen we're showing 4 changes of top. Yeah, it includes 4 retouched images. Okay, so that's a good thing as an upsell. So there's only a £75 difference between starter and pro. The whole point of that £75 and including those 3 extra retouched images is to really get that client to engage straight away. Well, I may as well book the pro session. I could get a light and a dark background and you get 4 changes at top, plus you already get 4 included retouched images. It's a no-brainer, and that's why the starter and the pro is that kind of simplicity in the packages that I encourage you to at least look at in some way, that it's a no-brainer to go from a basic fee to actually a pro fee and things really. And even here, obviously you don't need to include exactly what I'm showing you, but I've just put these together as a guide, and this is the kind of the guide that I give to my experienced group as well as a start to kind of getting going with headshot photography. So in short, you want to offer time-based shoots. Make sure if you're traveling to recover some of that cost in some way, especially your mileage fees, whatever it would be. Don't forget the need and the greed. To begin with, you might need extra business, the headshot photography, so don't get too greedy with it. But then, of course, as you get better and better with your headshot photography and it becomes an integral part of your business, then I would actually start to get the greed first. So in other words, try and charge a lot more money, include a lot less within the packages as well, and that should actually sustain you to a business growth. Hope you enjoyed the short film on headshots, getting going, and obviously how to price. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.